Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with a Westworld Season 2, Episode 3 prediction video. Now just for starters, this episode is called Virtù e Fortuna. And what's so funny about this saying is it pretty much says that human history can be a science, bound by two things, virtue and fortuna. So virtue is strength, power, prowess, control, and to impose your will on somebody else. Whereas fortuna is almost like fortune. It represents luck, chance, or fate. It's things that you cannot foresee or control. So in order to truly be successful, you want to have more virtue and the minimization of fortuna, which is fortune. And where I see this going right now in episode 3 is Dolores has all the virtue. She's inflicting her will onto other people to pursue her own goal and having a sustained, free society for hosts as they pursue the valley beyond. We also see her inflicting her own opinions on Bernard, which goes into the synopsis of the episode. There's beauty in who we are. Shouldn't we try to survive? So I think this episode is going to heavily focus on Dolores getting an army, imposing her own opinions on others to try and get people to follow her and fight for the host cause. In terms of Fortuna, however, that's more luck, so that could represent humanity. But more importantly, I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that this is about William. Fortuna has to do with luck, chance, or fate. And they always say that everything in the park is calculated, but I think the one thing that really resembles fate in this show is William and Dolores. Their paths always lead back to each other. And I think that's going to be a significant point in the Man in Black's plot as he pursues the door and as he pursues blowing up the very thing that he started. So tomorrow I'm going to release a really detailed video talking about what the door means and why the Man in Black is going on it. And also why Dolores and William are bound to each other. But I believe we'll see more going forward as the Man in Black went to Pariah, and he left with a number of dead Confederados, along with Alazzo. And in the last episode we see Dolores stumble upon Pariah. So it seems that we're going to see her amass a new army. She's going to resurrect all these Confederados as well as Alazzo. And she's going to get to hear from Alazzo what had happened there. How he waits to journey to the valley beyond. How William came looking for an army. And I think that plot is going to continue to snowball forward until we see William and Dolores' paths intersect. But one thing we do know is that Dolores' path is going to intersect with Bernard. And I believe in this episode we're going to be following two timelines, much like episode 1. And the reason why we're going to be jumping between these two timelines is because we're looking through the lens of Bernard. Last season, the timelines were so significant because Dolores was so confused on what was in the past or what was in the present. It was her in the maze pursuing consciousness. Hence why we got to see her with William when he was young, as well as her through multiple timelines follow these memories until she finally reached the maze. And in this season, it's no different, but we're looking through the context of Bernard. So starting with the past. In episode 1, we saw Bernard get shot up at the gala, and then he made his way into a hidden bunker with Charlotte. And here is where he discovered that Delos was actually recording guest DNA and experiences, and he agreed to help Charlotte find Abernathy in order to send a rescue team. So I think episode 3, we're going to find Bernard separating from Charlotte. But before he does that, he's going to change into a more comfortable pair of clothes, and that's the white dress shirt we've seen him in multiple clips. And we see him inevitably end up in that white dress shirt when he washes up on the beach. And I think on his journey to potentially find Abernathy, he's going to stumble across a host. Now, whoever this host is, whether it's Dolores, Angela, or another host, it will lead to Dolores and Bernard coming back together. What I want to point out is that the dress is white, whereas Angela and Dolores wear a different colored dress. But I think inevitably Bernard will be taken to Dolores, whether she's in Pariah or makes her way to a new location. And here I think we're going to see a big interaction because Bernard hasn't seen Dolores since she's been conscious. And I think it'll start off by Dolores saying, "It's been some time, Bernard. You don't know who you are, do you?"
It's been some time, Bernard. You don't know who you are, do you?
And I think that quote is going to dive deep into their history. The fact that he's Arnold, and he created the maze for all of them to be conscious. But I also think it's a jab because it's a realization for Dolores. Because it's a realization that Bernard isn't truly conscious. He doesn't know who he is yet. He only knows the code in which he's been given. And that's going to be Bernard's journey. And Dolores is going to continue on, spreading what her vision is, to uprise against the humans so they're free. She says the world out there is marked by survival, by a kind who refuse to die, and she's referring to the humans. And she justifies that by saying, shouldn't they try and survive? And to Dolores, survival is killing the humans to make sure that they can no longer hurt them. And I think that's going to be Bernard's inner conflict. Since this whole season we're following Bernard enter the maze and hopefully find his center of self, consciousness, he's going to be struggling between what is right and what is wrong. Because Bernard hasn't discovered himself, he's relying on his own code. And the code that Bernard was given is that he's human. Bernard was coded by Ford to believe that he is truly human. And he was given that backstory of his son. So I think it will be a true struggle for Bernard to come to terms with helping out Dolores and her cause to exterminate the humans, when the fundamental code of Bernard is to believe that, in fact, that he is human. And Dolores will touch on with Bernard what we've seen in the previous episodes. She says the truth is we don't all deserve to make it. And I think that stems a memory back with Bernard. In the present, when we see him wake up on the beach and find that native, he sees Dolores shoot the native because he doesn't deserve to make it to the valley beyond. And just by Bernard seeing that, it jump-started him to see his past, because he remembers Dolores saying that to him. And that's just how timeline jumps worked with Dolores in Season 1. Another point that Dolores means by doesn't deserve it is she could be filtering hosts based on their reveries. These natives were newly added storylines by Sizemore in Season 1. They don't have enough back memories to jumpstart consciousness. So the ones who deserve to make it to the valley beyond are the ones who are older, who can reflect on their past, and have pain and suffering in order to reach the center of their own maze. But finally, there is some valuable information that Bernard can share with Dolores. And even if he doesn't want to tell her, she can probably roll him back and get the answers anyway. And that is the fact that Bernard is looking for Abernathy. We know that Dolores knows where to go and she's looking for a weapon. And she knows of this because an old friend made the mistake of telling her so long ago. I'm going to assume that that's William. And William's motives are so much deeper than just providing a park for people to be themselves. It's a place where you can collect information on the guests, the DNA of the guests. And all of that information was embedded in Abernathy in Season 1 by Charlotte and Sizemore. So once Dolores finds out this information, she might make it her priority to try and find Abernathy with Bernard. One thing that we do know is that Bernard is 100% going to find Abernathy. The only question is Dolores going to be there too? We also see Maeve continuing her mission to find her daughter. And I think in order to get to her daughter's location, we're going to see her go through multiple sector headquarters to find her daughter, much like Dolores entered in episode 2. But I'm continually going to say that I think she will end up disappointed. I think this is just further proof that she isn't conscious. She's pursuing a daughter that isn't hers. And she's going to realize that when she goes to see her daughter and she has a new mother. And her daughter will no longer recognize her. I think that could jumpstart her to the point of consciousness. And we do know that she goes to Shogun World. And that's where I think her purpose comes into play. I think Ford coded her to enter Shogun World because she's a virus. We learned in Season 1 that the Reveries update could be passed through voice. And I think Maeve is going to be that matchstick to cause all the Shogun hosts to malfunction and develop reveries so they too can pursue the maze and consciousness. We also see her in the snow, and I am unsure as to whether she made it to Shogun World or if she is still in Westworld. But one thing I noticed is there's somebody in the background who looks like a worker at Westworld who she could have picked up at one of the sectors. But then I think we're also going to get a look at the present. And I think much like last season, we're going to see intricate camera work to look like it's just one streamlined timeline. The present and 2 weeks ago. And this is where we see the fight, where I think it's going to take place in the present. We're going to see the military attack where Dolores is. And it looks like this could be Pariah. And it looks like Dolores and all the hosts prepared for battle. You see all these X's to block the humans from attacking certain areas. So it looks like Dolores set up a type of camp in Pariah before she pursues the valley beyond. And it seems like here Dolores is going to have a bigger army. She has the Confederados as well as the people who were killed by Elazo and Ford's code when the Man in Black himself wanted an army. And it looks like Dolores takes a hit as she gets shot and she's bleeding in multiple takes. So I think here we might get some key hints at what could have happened 2 weeks in the past. But I'm not really sure, but I think the action sequence will be amazing. And the last thing we get is a tiger. And this baffles my mind because it doesn't look like Westworld. It looks like a more tropical climate. So we could potentially be seeing a new park that isn't Shogun World, but it's another park somewhere in Asia. Or maybe we could see the origin of how that tiger ended up on the shore. But anyways, that's my initial thoughts and predictions on what will happen in Westworld Episode 3. Tomorrow I have an amazing theory video that I really think will happen, based on William and his mission to find the door. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your predictions for Episode 3? But anyways, until next time, I'll see you guys later.